A Las Vegas Strip shines with the promise of wealth, but behind the familiar front of one shop, there was a darkness that no TV camera ever caught. Rick Harrison, the charming and knowledgeable businessman that Pawn Stars fans welcomed into their homes every week, built his empire on history, honesty, and trust. But what if the pawn shop owner with the huge brain told you lies about everything you thought you knew about it? FBI agents who raided Harrison's huge Las Vegas house were shocked by what they found inside the walls of what looked like a normal millionaire's home. 25 bodies were carefully hidden. There are hidden rooms with proof of crimes that happened decades ago. The well-known reality TV star is linked to organized crime groups and black market deals in documents. The man who taught Americans about historical objects was hiding the worst secret in history, and the world is still reeling from the news. Rick Harrison's journey started a long way from Las Vegas. On March 22, 1965, he was born in Lexington, North Carolina. He had a hard time in his early life, especially when he was a child and had seizures. When young Rick was stuck in bed during severe episodes, he read books and developed a hunger for information that would become his trademark. The pages of history books were his getaway. It was ironic that his life would later be used as an example of what not to do. In 1981, the Harrison family moved to Las Vegas, Nevada, looking for work in the Haven in the middle of the desert. In 1989, Rick and his father opened Gold and Silver Pawn Shop, which was the start of what would become a famous business. What started out as a small pawn shop slowly grew into something amazing, especially when TV makers saw how interesting it would be to show old things on TV. When Pawn Stars first aired in 2009, Rick Harrison was in people's living rooms all over the United States. People were amazed by how much he knew about business and how real the family relationship at the shop seemed. The popularity of the show was out of this world, and Harrison became a household name, linked to historical knowledge and honesty. It wasn't until years later that the irony of this view became clear. In each show, Harrison talked about the historical importance of different items and often spotted fakes right away. A man who knew how to spot a fake, but had become the biggest fake of all. The pawn shop became a popular place for tourists to visit, and Harrison grew his business to include merchandise, books, and public events. He stood for the American dream to many people, a man who learned on his own and became successful through information, hard work, and determination. What are we looking at? When financial investigators found problems with the pawn shop's transactions, the first cracks in Harrison's carefully built front began to show. Something that started out as a normal audit turned into something much scarier as trends showed up that made it look like the legal business might be a front for illegal activities. When the FBI started their probe, they first looked into possible financial crimes like tax evasion, money laundering, and illegal transactions. Agents were expecting to find proof of crime with money. They weren't ready for the horror that was hiding behind the mansion's nice front. There were no mistakes made during the raid on Harrison's home. It was done exactly as the search warrant said it should be. The investigation took a scary turn when agents found a first secret compartment in Harrison's study. It was hidden behind what looked like a solid wall. Investigators found carefully organized records detailing Harrison's ties to organized crime figures, illegally obtained historical artifacts sold on the black market, and proof that Harrison was involved in a criminal network operating below the surface. The paper showed an upsetting truth. Many of the items on Pawn Stars came from illegal sources and their origins were lied about for TV. The store that was known for selling real things was actually selling fake history. But what agents found as they continued their search was much more important than the physical proof of financial crimes. The first of 25 bodies found in a secret basement area that can only be reached by a complex mechanism that looked like a normal bookshelf were victims who had been missing for almost 20 years. Forensic agents worked hard to find out who the victims were. Many of them seemed to have ties to Harrison's illegal activities. Some of them were rivals in the trade of antiques on the black market. Others had said they would reveal parts of Harrison's plan. The organized way the evidence was hidden suggested a planned, long-term operation rather than crimes of passion. The man who made a fortune by studying history had been carefully erasing his own dark past, one victim at a time. When people heard about the findings, they were shocked and couldn't believe it. How could the friendly businessman who was so excited to talk about history be linked to such horrible crimes? Former friends had a hard time making sense of the difference between the Rick Harrison they thought they knew and the criminal they saw growing before their eyes. The TV network quickly canceled Pawn Stars to distance themselves from Harrison and the bad reputation of what had been their most popular show. Once a popular tourist spot, Gold and Silver Pawn Shop turned into a creepy place to visit. Visitors were taking pictures of the outside from across the street, while fewer people were walking into nearby stores. Tourism leaders in Las Vegas worked hard to keep the scandal from hurting the city's reputation. Harrison and those closest to him were affected by what happened. His son Corey, who was a big part of the show, said he had no idea about his father's criminal actions. As the investigation went on, they found no proof that Corey was involved with the crimes, which supported his denials. In any case, Harrison Jr. was caught up in the mess, and his image will always be linked to what his father did. Austin Chumley Russell, another well-known face in the shop, was shocked when asked about it, saying he had never thought there were bad currents running through the business. Investigators did not find a clear link between Russell and the worst crimes, but they did find evidence that he may have known about some financial problems. The friendly comic relief on Pawn Stars was charged with failure to report unusual activity, which were not very serious charges. The shocking news broke the Harrison family apart. Rick's ex-wives came forward with stories of him being controlling and going missing for unknown reasons, which fit with the timeline of disappearances now linked to him. Family members talked about Harrison's pathological compartmentalization, or ability to go from committing crimes to spending time with his family without showing any signs of the sadness inside him. As the trial date got closer, prosecutors put together a lot of evidence that directly linked Harrison to the killings in the crime ring. DNA evidence found in the secret rooms, financial records showing illegal transactions, and statements from people who knew Harrison and had seen his darker side made the case strong. Harrison's lawyers tried to say that their client had been set up by rivals who were jealous, people in organized crime who were looking for a fall guy, but the proof that he was directly involved was too strong to ignore. The trial was a big deal for the media, and every day new details about Harrison's crime network came out. Former co-workers who worked with him admitted that he was involved in trafficking stolen goods, describing how items that had been shown on Pawn Stars had been illegally acquired. Their stories were made up to make interesting TV. A former black market dealer gave the most damaging evidence against Harrison. He talked about how Harrison had used his TV fame as the perfect cover for his crime business. Who would have thought that the guy on TV teaching us about history was actually stealing it? According to the witness, his public image was his best quality. When Harrison went on a stand to defend himself, his famous calm fell apart when he was questioned by the other side. The lawyers carefully took apart his denials, presenting him with proof that each of his claims of innocence was false. It only took the jury 6 hours to decide that all charges were true, including multiple counts of first-degree murder, racketeering, and dealing in stolen goods. The judge said that Harrison's crimes were, especially, betrayal, when he gave him multiple life sentences without the chance of release. In public, you built your name on facts, history, and trust. But behind closed doors, you slandered those very things. The fact that you lied to the people for years makes your crimes even worse. Harrison was being led out of court, and the kingdom he had built was in shambles. The famous pawn shop was shut down for good, and its goods were taken as proof. Instead of being a celebration of history and business, the TV show that made him famous was just a footnote in true crime films. After the shooting, Las Vegas tried to separate itself from the Harrison family. Officials in charge of tourism took out all references to Pawn Stars from their marketing materials. Later, the empty shop building was torn down to make room for new construction, removing any physical reminders of what had happened there. The victims finally got answers about their lost loved ones, but they They also learned the terrible truth about what had happened. Funerals and memorials were held, bringing together people whose only link was the sad way their family members had died. The story of Rick Harrison is a scary reminder that looks can be deceiving, and that the people we let into our homes through our screens may have deeper sides we can't even imagine.